A rock from space that hit with 30 times the force of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. A waterfall in Antarctica that bleeds, a storm that has been running non-stop for centuries. These extraordinary events prove that no force is more powerful, unpredictable, or fascinating than Mother Nature. February 15th, 2013, 9:20 a.m., Chelyabinsk, Russia. Nobody saw it coming. The asteroid, roughly 60 feet wide, 10,000 tons, came from the direction of the sun, making it invisible to every telescope on the planet. No warning, no alert, no time. The first thing people saw was a flash brighter than the sun. Then, nearly 2 minutes later, the shockwave arrived. Windows shattered across 6 cities. A factory roof collapsed. Around 1,500 people were injured, almost all by flying glass. Russia's unusually high rate of dashboard camera use meant every commuter, every delivery driver, every parked car captured the same streak of fire across the morning sky. Scientists used the footage to reconstruct the asteroid's entire trajectory, the most widely recorded meteor event in history, and nobody saw it coming until it was already over. Most people know what a thunderstorm looks like. This is not that. Volcanic lightning forms inside the ash plume of an erupting volcano. Billions of particles collide and fracture at enormous speed, stripping electrons from each other and building massive electrical charges. Those charges discharge, not as single bolts, but as hundreds of simultaneous strikes, illuminating a wall of fire and ash. Sakurajima, Japan, captures it regularly. The ash cloud lights up from within. Bolts race through the plume. It looks like the mountain is generating its own private apocalypse. Then came January 15th, 2022. Hunga, Tonga erupted in the most powerful atmospheric explosion recorded in the modern era. Inside the plume, nearly 200,000 lightning flashes over 11 hours. At its peak, 2,600 flashes per minute, more than double any storm ever recorded on Earth. Nobody had ever seen a ring of electrical discharges 280 kilometers across expanding from a single point. Every September through November, pilots from around the world descend on a tiny outback town in northern Queensland called Burketown, population roughly 200, to chase a cloud. The morning glory is a roll cloud that forms over the Gulf of Carpentaria and rolls inland at dawn, stretching up to 1,000 kilometers in length and moving at 60 kilometers per hour. It looks like someone unrolled an enormous white cylinder across the entire horizon. At night, cool air slides down from Cape York Peninsula across the Gulf, colliding with warmer air beneath an atmospheric inversion layer. The resulting wave travels invisibly through the night. At dawn, moisture makes it visible. By mid-morning, the heat burns it away. The rising air at the cloud's leading edge is powerful enough to carry a glider indefinitely. In 2009, hang gliding champion Johnny Durand rode it for a 68-kilometer, 2-hour flight, looping and carving along its face. There is exactly one place on Earth where this can be reliably predicted. It doesn't arrive like a wave. It arrives like a slow, grinding wall. And the sound it makes has been described as thousands of windows shattering at once. May 2013, Lake Meale, Lacs, Minnesota. Winds had been building across the water for hours, pushing enormous sheets of spring ice toward shore. Those sheets heaved lighter ice up onto the bank. The bank fed it onto land, and it kept coming. A wall of ice, in some places 30 feet tall, moved through the neighborhood. Boathouses were crushed, patio doors punched clean through. One home had 2 feet of ice inside its living room. The same weekend in Manitoba, Canada, 12 homes were completely destroyed and 15 more damaged. Families heard the grinding from inside and had minutes to get out. Nobody was killed either time. But the footage doesn't look like a weather event. It looks like the lake decided it wanted to be somewhere else. There is a place on Earth where lightning strikes up to 280 times per hour for up to 10 hours a night, roughly 300 nights a year. It has been doing this for centuries. Lake Maracaibo sits in northwestern Venezuela, cradled by mountains on 3 sides. The lake heats air during the day. At night, cool and day-in winds descend and collide with that warm, wet air directly over the mouth of the Catatumbo River, triggering the same storm in the same location, night after night. Sailors throughout history called it the Maracaibo Beacon and used it to navigate in darkness. In 1596, it reportedly exposed Sir Francis Drake's fleet during a nighttime raid, forcing him to abandon the mission. The sky over the lake doesn't flicker. It pulses continuously, like a broken power grid. Locals say it's bright enough to read by. A quarter of Venezuela's population lives inside the highest concentration of lightning on Earth. It looks like someone spilled liquid neon into the ocean. It looks like a special effect. It is neither. On certain nights in the Maldives and in the bays of Puerto Rico, the surf glows electric blue. Every wave that breaks lights up. Every footprint in the wet sand glows briefly before fading. If you swim through it, your body is outlined in cold blue fire. The source is dinoflagellates, microscopic organisms that produce light when disturbed, through the same basic chemistry that makes a firefly glow. When a wave crashes and agitates the water, billions of them respond simultaneously. The entire breaking wave lights up at once. Kayakers in Puerto Rico's Mosquito Bay have described paddling through water that appears to be burning beneath them. Divers in the Maldives report being surrounded by blue light in every direction. The science explains what it is. It does almost nothing to explain what it feels like to be inside it. It looks like a crime scene. It looks like something that shouldn't exist. Deep in Antarctica's McMurdo dry valleys, a bright crimson waterfall flows from Taylor Glacier and stains the frozen lake below, vivid red against white in one of the most remote places on Earth. When geologist Thomas Griffith Taylor first documented it in 1911, he assumed it was red algae. He was wrong. The water comes from a subglacial lake sealed beneath 400 meters of ice, cut off from the atmosphere for an estimated 2 million years. When it seeps through the glacier and contacts oxygen for the first time, the iron in the water oxidizes instantly. It rusts. That's the color. But the stranger discovery is what's living inside that sealed lake. Bacteria, surviving in complete darkness in oxygen-free, sub-zero, hypersaline water for millions of years, metabolizing iron and sulfur to stay alive. Bloodfalls didn't stop being bizarre when scientists understood it. It got more bizarre. If this kind of real-world footage fascinates you, hit subscribe. I've got dozens more disasters, incredible phenomena, and historic events planned twice weekly. It looks like someone set the sky on fire. There are no flames. And despite the name, it's not a regular rainbow either. A circumhorizontal arc forms when sunlight passes through hexagonal ice crystals in high-altitude cirrus clouds. If those crystals are perfectly flat and perfectly aligned with the ground, they split light into a vivid horizontal band of color stretched across the sky like a burning ribbon. The conditions required are brutally precise. The sun must be at least 58 degrees above the horizon. The crystals must be exactly the right shape and orientation. Because of the sun angle requirement, this phenomenon is physically impossible to see north of 55 degrees latitude. In London, the window for it is roughly 140 hours a year. In Los Angeles, about 670. For millions of people in northern climates, it can never happen, no matter how often they look up. It produces no heat, makes no sound, just hangs there, colorful and motionless, until the conditions that built it disappear. From a distance, Abraham Lake in Alberta looks like any other frozen mountain lake in winter. Get closer and the ice looks wrong. Beneath the surface, stacked in clusters and columns, are thousands of white disks, bubbles, frozen at various depths, some the size of dinner plates, some stacked directly above each other in columns that look almost engineered. They are methane. Bacteria on the lake floor decompose organic matter and release gas. In summer, the bubbles float up and escape. In winter, as the ice forms from the top down, rising bubbles are trapped and frozen in place. More rise and freeze beneath them. The result is those columns, suspended mid-ascent, locked in the ice. Methane is highly flammable. There are videos of people punching holes in the ice and holding a lighter over the opening. The results are exactly what you'd expect. Every year, pilots file reports about them. Every year, someone on the ground thinks they're looking at something not from this planet. Lenticular clouds are smooth, lens-shaped formations that hover motionless above mountain peaks. They don't drift, they don't evolve. They just sit there, perfectly symmetrical, while everything around them moves normally. Some are a single disk, some stack in layers like enormous plates. They appear stationary because they essentially are. Moist air is pushed upward over a mountain, cools into cloud, then descends and evaporates on the other side, cycling through the same position continuously. New droplets form at the leading edge as old ones evaporate at the trailing edge. The cloud is locked in place by the mountain itself. For pilots, they're a serious warning. The mountain waves that create them produce severe turbulence, sometimes enough to damage aircraft. For everyone on the ground, they produce a different reaction. Thousands of documented UFO sightings have been traced back to lenticular clouds. Hard to blame anyone. For over a century, pilots reported seeing red flashes above thunderstorms. The scientific community largely dismissed them. They were right all along. Red sprites are electrical discharges that occur not inside a thunderstorm, but 50 to 90 kilometers above one, at the edge of space. They last milliseconds. They appear as reddish-orange jellyfish shapes, sometimes with tendrils extending upward and downward. They are triggered by powerful lightning strikes below and happen not in hot plasma like conventional lightning, but in cold plasma, closer to a fluorescent tube than a bolt. First confirmed on camera in 1989, when a University of Minnesota team accidentally captured one while testing equipment. They didn't know what they were looking at. Because sprites occur above storms, they can only be seen from altitude. Astronauts on the International Space Station have photographed them looking down at cloud tops. The storms below them are creating weather. What's happening above them is still not fully understood. It moves slowly. That's what makes it so unsettling. Beneath Antarctic sea ice, supercold brine seeps downward from the underside of the ice sheet. As it sinks, it freezes the warmer seawater around it, building a hollow tube of ice that grows toward the seafloor like a stalactite. As long as the brine keeps flowing, the tube keeps growing. This is a Brinicle. The BBC filmed one forming in 2011 for Frozen Planet, using time-lapse cameras on the seafloor. 6 hours of footage compressed into minutes. The ice tube descends slowly through open water, reaches the bottom, and spreads outward. What happens next is what earns the name. The spreading brine freezes everything it touches. Starfish, sea urchins, brittle stars. Anything moving slowly enough is encased where it stands. The seafloor beneath an active Brinicle looks like a frozen crime scene. Animals preserved mid-movement, locked in place by something that descended from above without a sound. No predator, no warning, just cold,